Moving on now for an update on the ongoing search for missing British teenager Jay Slater, and a new picture has emerged, as you can see on your screen, showing the man who was renting the Airbnb which Slater visited just hours before he vanished. The image, which comes from the Daily Mail, shows a Brit who uses the name Ayab Abdul. And Abdul booked the holiday rental online for £40 per night and later hosted the missing teenager shortly before he disappeared. What a fresh piece of evidence, and let's dive into that now by speaking to the former detective who led the Lambeth Missing Persons Unit, Mike Neville. Mike, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. A lot of questions were asked at the time, Mike, about that apartment, about the individuals inside there. Talk about two individuals that Slater was seen with in the last hours he's around. Now, this latest piece of information come out about the host. Everything seems now to be focusing, Mike Neville, onto this property, does it not?
Well, that's right. The Spanish police said at the time that they'd spoken to these men, they'd recorded their details, and they were not part of the investigation anymore. But that now seems to have changed. And there's all sorts of information coming out in the media that Jay was involved, or allegedly involved, in an incident involving a watch. And there's all sorts of Snapchats have just appeared, which allegedly was sent to the family. So there's all these strange things coming forward, people coming forward 5 and 10 and 15 days after the event, which is very difficult when you're investigating and you're expecting people to come over with information straight away. I mean, you've just shown the CCTV image. Still at this stage, we don't have any verification of where that was from, or if it's Jay in the slightest. And at the same time, you've got the issue of, did he simply go missing, or is there something more complex here? Because the phone calls he allegedly made, because we're relying on witnesses, say that he was, tired, he'd cut himself, needed a drink, and he only had 1% battery. So with those statements, there's no evidence of criminality. But then you've got this background noise of this alleged theft of a watch, and then these two men who we went to this Airbnb for no particular reason. So there's lots going on here, and the Spanish police have got to get this right, because the British public really demanding answers as to what's happened to this lad.
And Mike Neville, you and I spoke very early on in this case, and we were saying at the time it was incredible that those two individuals who were linked to Jay Slater's final hours had just been allowed to leave the country, seemingly without being questioned. And then we saw this extrapolated, wide area, rough terrain search fanning out with drones, with helicopters, with dogs, with search teams. And now, once again, Mike, the telescope has been flipped back onto a much more concentrated area, back to that property. It just seems, Mike, that maybe the answer was staring them in the face all along in that apartment.
Absolutely. And what you've got as well is the other thing as well is all sorts of other holiday makers who are attending the clubs and the raves who have now dispersed. They've left that island. They've gone back to UK. Where are they? Well, they could be anywhere. And so all sorts of videos and stuff have been lost, and opportunities. In the police, you call this the golden hour, the first 24 hours. And everything seems to have been gambled on. He's gone missing in that wooded area. Now, in my view, likelihood, that is probably the case. But they need to look into these other avenues. The Spanish police are saying it's not a criminal investigation, it's a missing persons inquiry. But there's all these other things in the background that have got to be clarified to see, is there any link to this at all? But it's a very, very strange mystery, and we can only hope that the lad is found and his parents get some kind of closure.
It just seems astonishing, Mike, that, if you were conducting a campaign, a search party on the ground like this, surely you would just begin with the last known sightings, the last known locations, and comb for evidence, for electronic evidence, phones, CCTV, anything, before kind of going right across the island, and all the manpower, the time, the resources that takes. It just seems incredible that these basics were overlooked.
Well, it just seems like there's been one focus. So we do know that there was a GPS or his phone pinged at a certain place in the park. So the police did the right thing by searching that area, and fanning out from where that ping was that he allegedly said he was on his own, his battery was running out, etc. But in the background to this, from the very start, there's been all sorts of rumours and allegations of crime of some kind, and that doesn't seem to have been done. The other thing that's been bad as well, in my view, is the way that the police have handled the press and releasing things, because we almost see like a Life on Mars sort of situation here, where it's the 1970s, tell the press nothing, don't brief. You know, they cancel the search. There's not a police briefing by a senior officer with the journalist there. And I just think that has been handled very, very badly. And it's almost like they're doing it because the Spanish public aren't that interested, not realising the international interest in this case.
Fascinating stuff, as ever. Mike Neville, thank you for sharing your huge experience. Of course, former head of Lambeth Missing Persons Unit. Your expertise, always very much appreciated. Thank you very much.